In Peru, a Gen Z protest over a pension law exploded into broader demands, including action to tackle rising insecurity and widespread corruption in the government. Protesters stood with the same flag in San Martin Square, which is now the stage for weekly protests, whose outrage was over abusive power, corruption, the deaths, referring to the sharp rise in murders and extortion plaguing the South American country since 2017, amid new laws that have weakened efforts to fight crime. The world is going through a wave of protests, especially initiated and executed by Gen Zs who are acting up against the ruling government for their traditional working methods. In Morocco, a leaderless collective called Gen Z 212, named after Morocco's dialing code, has taken to the streets to demand better public services and increase spending on health and education. In Nepal, protesters hung the same flag on the gates of the Singha Durbar, the seat of the Nepalese government, and on ministries, many of which were torched in protests, which were also hoisted by crowds in Indonesia, the Philippines, Morocco, and Madagascar. Days before the deadly protests began in Nepal, the government announced a ban on most social media platforms for not complying with the registration deadline. Many young Nepalese viewed it as an attempt to silence them and began accessing social media sites through virtual private networks to evade detection. A cold desert region of the Himalayas dealt with a massive protest, which was, again, a Gen Z-led protest, as the youth of Ladakh torched the regional office of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP. This also led to the deployment of the armed forces. The protesters were boiling with rage over the Modi government for delaying talks with them. A major reason behind these protests has been the grievances driven by widening inequality, economic uncertainty, corruption, and nepotism of leaders. The old traditional political systems aren't responsive to their generation's concerns. The common factor between all these protests taking place is the lack of a leader.